Hello YouTube and welcome to another YouTube video for Duelyst. This is my first video that I'll be making a sort of series of this month, which is based around Brome decks. This month, I should start by saying last month I made S-Rank for the first time. I got there with a goal of, I sort of mixed between one of my Songhai decks and one of my Sage decks. And since then, I'm really happy that I did. And so I've set myself a bit of a challenge. From now on, I have a sort of randomizer. I'm going to try and check off each channel and trying to get the S rank with each channel. And so in conjunction with my YouTube channel, I'm going to show off the decks that I'm using to climb to try and get to S rank this season. This season will be Brome, and this is the first deck that I've been using. I say TM25 Brome, you'll see there. Because initially I did take the basic structure of this deck from a TM25 list. I'll leave a link. Well, I'll have an image of that down in the description, and definitely go check out TM25's channel because he makes a lot of good decks. I've since taken that and made alterations. I just used his deck as a starting point. So a lot of the similarities, there were some differences as well, based on what I would prefer to have. So we'll start off with double Aegis Barrier. That hasn't changed. I like the double. Using it on an Iron Cliff is really strong. Using it on Grandmaster Z is really strong. Worst case, you can still go for an Aegis Barrier on a Duelyst if you really need to. If you're getting a little bit overrun, it's still pretty solid. But ideally, you want to use it on the Cliffy, on your Zir, or on the Tombstone that spawns from Duelyst. They're all strong plays. Blood Tier. I like having a 9 2-drop package. That was one difference. A minor difference, but that was one difference I made. His original list only has 8. I put in the 9 just because OCD. 9 2-drops. I really like it. Unless I'm running a very specialized list, I like the 9 2-drop package in most of my decks. Now I go for the triple Afterblaze. No, before I get to that, Aether Master. I want to talk about this card. The original list ran double Blood Tier, triple Herald, triple Azurite Lion. I've kept the Heralds, I've kept the Blood Tiers, I've put it up to a 3rd Blood Tier. I put in Aether Masters instead of the Lions, because when I was playing my games initially, I did have Lion. It was okay as an opening play, but I found that I didn't get as much value out of it as I would have liked, other than the initial ramp to 4 mana to drop like a Duelyst or something, which any 2-drop can do. Especially if it's got 4 health or 3 health, it's got really good odds to take that tile. Yeah, and I just didn't get the value out of the Lion, or as much value as I would have liked. So I did swap it out for Aether Master, and I'm going through a phase with Aether Master, I think. Because I had some really bad draws. I'm valuing this card in a really new light. I think this card is quite underrated. I understand not everyone's going to agree, but I like the idea that this card gives you is you can optimize your hand. I found that just in card games in general, you're going to get bad draws. But the ability to replace twice as much every turn really helps your hand health, right? Your hand quality. Sometimes you just don't draw what you would like to see in the matchup. Sometimes you have things that are bad in the matchup, like you have Martyrdom versus Hyperswarm, and you're just getting overrun. You need things like the Immolations. It makes your hand so much better, and it can make your overall curve so much better if you can just have these Aether Masters to improve your hand quality. And it really helps you out and wins games, in my opinion. I really value this. Anyway, we're moving on to the Afterblazers, as I say. That was a triple in the original list. I kept it as a triple. But the reason that I'm thinking maybe not is I think the best value for this is in its cantrip ability with your BBS or Silverguard Knight. The buffs is nice on, say, the Silverguard or the, for example, Azurite Lion, but now that I'm not running that, and it's a little bit situational on the Silverguard, I'm thinking maybe if I find something else, I can at least trim this down to 2 copies. When I get another claim, I'll probably just thin that to 2 copies and put a claim in. Spoilers, we're going down the list a little bit, but the cantrip ability sort of isn't too necessary considering I can replace every turn. I can replace twice sometimes. I have Aegis Barrier, which also cantrips, and I have, you know, Aether Master, Trinity, things like that. I think I've covered it. So it's not super necessary, I think. But the buffs still can help you trade up. They can be used on your 2 drops and sometimes your 3 drops to trade up into things and keep your bodies on the board. And it is a nice thing to have. Arclight Sentinel, running it with the Blood Tears. You can take out something on 3 health for 3. The Blood Tears are good for Immolation plays at 5 mana. Similarly, you can use Arclight Sentinel with Immolation. It's more expensive, but it's still pretty powerful. This way you can take out something with 6 health by bringing it to 4, then immolating. It's pretty good. So Double Divine Bond, I'm thinking of making this triple as it is quite a good part of the deck. Quite an important part, I should say. Because once you get your big guys to stick, which ideally will eventually happen, you want to be able to cash in and close out games. And that's where Divine Bond comes in. You can just provoke Soul and deal chip damage, but this is a little bit more consistent, I would have said, as far as, you know, winning the game and playing to your outs go. So I'm tempted to make this a triple. As I say, I'm still testing things. Well, triple Silverguard Knight's pretty standard. The double Martyrdom also could be a triple. Something I struggled with is... I guess I didn't really struggle with single target removal. It's mainly... What I've went up against with this list is a lot of Hyper Swarm, and then a lot of Arcanist lists as well. And the Arcanist list, you kind of need things like... Or Sunbloom. You kind of need things like Decimate and Empyrean's Claim. But before 7 mana. So Empyrean's Claim, good, but it takes a while for you to be able to play that one. So you need things like Sunbloom and Decimate, potentially. It's not guaranteed, but potentially. And other than that, you just have to hope that you can get off some decent immolation plays, or they don't play, or they just play one at a time and you can get on top of it with the martyrdoms. So it could be a potentially weak matchup, especially if it's a really well-crafted Shaddai list, or a Raver list potentially. Either way. Duelyst, yeah, it's one of our 4s. I wanted something in a 4-drop slot. Do I have triple Duelyst? Could I bring that up to 4 if I wanted to? I could. Or 3 if I wanted to? Yeah, I could. I don't really... I tend to get a lot of early board control with my tempo plays, with the Blood Tier, the Arclight Sentinels, and dropping a Silverguard can get some early mid control. So I don't often need to have a 4, but it is nice if I can have that 2-drop to stick, and I can afford to take a bit of a slower turn and just drop a 4-drop. But often when I drop my 2, their plays are quite threatening, quite up front, especially versing Vitruvian. They have the Metallurgist, so Dream Shaper opener, for example, and threaten to ramp. You kind of want to answer that as opposed to develop more. And you'll see that in one of the games. Triple Immolation, really powerful. I hope I don't need to explain this too much. Double Trinity Oath. I think TM25 talked a little bit on this about just running the double instead of triple. I want to draw into my good stuff. you know. I don't want to draw into more Trinity Oaths. I just want to draw into the good stuff. The Grandmaster's Ear, Mage Sworn, Iron Cliffs, Geoltuses, potentially Aegis Barriers as well. So a 2 of I think is fine. Iron Cliff, as I say, is a really strong Divine Bond target. It's a really strong Immolation target. Can be really sticky. Really good with Aegis Barrier. In a pinch, probably you can Martyrdom it if you really need to survive. And you think that's a smart move. 9 times out of 10 it probably won't be, but sometimes your back is against the wall and you don't have many options. Mage Sworn is good in a Songhai matchup for sure, especially against Shaddai, Reaver. Not so much, well, I guess kind of Duelyst. You can deny those Juxta and Misdragon tempo plays, but by 6 it's kind of progressed beyond that. Like by 6 they're dropping Painters, they're dropping Zendos, so it's not as good against Duelyst, but definitely Reaver and Shaddai I feel, and obviously Fae. I haven't yet versed a Fae matchup, or had a Fae matchup with this deck yet. It's mainly been a bunch of Lilith, a bunch of Xerix, and some Songhai. But this is definitely good against Fae as well, for obvious reasons. The 1 of claim, as I say, I would like to make it a 2 of. In case you fall behind on board at some point, they're running a swarm list. They're boxing themselves in. You need to push through. Claim's very good. It's a very good removal tool. And not many players play around it. It's not that easy, but it's very possible to play around this card, but not a lot of people expect it. Even though it's been in the game for a while. It could be that I'm just not at that rank yet. I did notice, I got into S rank last season, so obviously in S rank you're going to play around it. But for now, even if they're trying to play around it, it's still going to hit a couple of targets. It's still going to generate the healing tiles. It can still overwrite tiles. It can overwrite the Exhuming Sands and things like that. So it's pretty good. And the double Zir, in case all else fails, you've got your Grandmaster's Ear, Aegis Barrier, to keep yourself alive. It's essentially giving yourself an extra 12 health, and putting the 5 and bringing your general to 5 attack. I try and set up so that when I play this, I die. A good way of, I think, playing this card is you're on 2 health. You're on 2 health or 3 health. You can punch something and die. So you play this. And you play this a little bit out the way. Depends on the situation, of course. But you play this a little bit out the way if you need to. It buys yourself some more time to develop board. And you can still, I believe, you can still use Aegis Barrier on your Grandmaster's Ear and then trade. So you're spell immune. So say if you're versing Songhai, they still can't Phoenix Fire your face or anything like that. Obviously Mantras can still kill you because it's not actually directly targeting you. But still, it can be a pretty solid play. I wonder. Anyway, that's the list. I've got a couple of games lined up. I'm going to make these sort of shorter videos. I'm just going to show off a 1 win and 1 loss. As per usual, I like to show what this deck can do well and what it loses against. Because I don't always see the point in just showing off, oh, this deck is amazing, this deck wins all the time. Decks have weaknesses. You're eventually going to play things that you're weak to. It's just a consideration. You can obviously tech against some of your weaknesses. You can tech against certain things that you are just constantly seeing reoccurring on the ladder on that particular day. But yeah, we'll get into the first game. Here's our first game against Fade-In, Duelyst. I guess say we're only in Gold Division. Season was set 2 or 3 days ago. We're slowly grinding up. Here's our opener. I opt to replace the Arclight Signal. I don't think it's going to be too relevant in this match. What I'm suspecting he could be running is Mantra, what I suspect he could be running is Arcanists, because I have seen a fair bit of Shaddai Arcanists. I've made my own list as well that I use for Team Wars, and I think it's a really solid list. When I play Songhai, I play it a lot. And I don't think Arclight Sentinel is good for either. The only potential could be that he drops an Adjudicator, but then again, Blood Tier can do that job. So I do get rid of the Sentinel, drawn to the Immolation. Now, if he's going for a very aggressive tactic, burst you down, which either Arcanists or Mantra tends to do, you want to hang on to your heals, but at the same time, I was kind of tough decision, because he could also have things like Crescent Spear, and things like that. So I kind of wanted to hang on to the Blood Tier. So I can see merit in both. Playing the Herald wastes your heal when you can potentially need it. Playing the Blood Tier could waste a ping when you can potentially need it. I do go for the Herald and save my Blood Tier for artifacts and a sort of Blood Tier Immolation combo. I do hang on to that. We're looking good in that we have Aegis Barrier and reversing Songhai. If we get a decent Aegis Barrier target, we can use it on that. And we have the Mage Sworn. Again, that is so good in this matchup. So I'm glad that we already have it. He plays a Blaze Hound, so we draw a card, have a full hand, and he got Tatsu. So he's trying to deck thin here, is what that tells me. I don't often see Blaze Hound in Songhai. It's a little bit of a strange card to see. But yeah, I suspect he's trying to thin the deck and he's trying to look for something. So it could still be, at this point, a Mantra list. But we shall see. We draw into an Immolation at the end of our turn, and we just get a Trinity Oath. Trinity Oath is not super necessary. It looks like we're just going to be making some curve plays, so I do ditch that. And the Aether Master is quite good. Now, what I was trying to consider here was the Thunder Bomb. I thought about playing my Aether Master defensively, and then playing the Blood Tier here to deny the tile. But then I think, well, and I was planning on taking center, punching this, and using the Blood Tier on this, punch clear. But then Thunderbomb kills the Blood Tier, and then he can also move up and do something on the tile, maybe. Especially if he's running Mana Vortex. So I do opt to, even though I value this Aether Master, I want to keep it alive. I do put it here to deny the tile more securely with a 3 health minion, and just play this in the back. I do lose 1 Immolation, just to cycle into perhaps a Duelyst or an Ironcliff Guardian on curve. And we do get our Ironcliff. So that's a really solid draw to see. That's the benefit of having Aether Master, is you can keep cycling, find what you need, have it on curve. And we found a big body for our Aegis Barrier to get put on. So it's an Arcanist list. He uses the 0 mana Juxta just to get a little bit of a buff. Get it to 6 health. A punch and an Immolation still does the trick. Bringing down to 4, immolating, clearing that. I do opt to use my BBS this turn as well. Because next turn I know that I'm not going to be taking both of these tiles. And I can provoke and lock him down. And so I'll still have a tile up. To potentially, cliff the Aegis Barrier or drop a Mage Sworn. Depends what we decide to do. And I do get off, a teeny bit of damage with this. Always got to remember, don't just immolate, punch immolate. Because it could potentially be significant. You're just getting in just that little bit more damage. If you ever find yourself 1-off lethal, be sure to get in that 1 extra damage. Still got our Aether Master up. Our board presence isn't huge. But we're keeping pace with him at this point. He drops his own Aether Master. He got Tatsu's, more deck thinning. He's trying to find something. And he baby yeses. On a side note, if it were me, I've got a Gatatsu in hand. It's a really cheap spell. I'd be tempted to keep it, to be honest. Because you want those cheap spells you want to use to buff your Arcanists. Say if you have another Beast in hand, just throwing that away, I don't think it would be that worth it. But that's just me. So now we can, in fact, ramp into 6 mana. We could drop the Mage Sworn. There are benefits to both of these plays. Just ramping to 6, dropping Mage Sworn, or ramping to 6, going Ironcliff, Aegis Barrier, you would think. Say if I drop the Mage Sworn, it denies a lot of his cheap buffs that he could give to his Albi Sage. And it would mean that it wouldn't go up too much in health unless you had, what have you got, 6 mana next turn? Yeah, no, you really couldn't buff it that much at all, could you? Unless you find a way to remove the Mage Sworn. Which you could definitely have an Onyx Bear Seal, so he might well be keeping that Onyx Bear Seal, so I do decide to go to Cliffy Aegis Barrier to make Onyx Seal kind of a dead card in his hand. It is putting Aether Master in a bit of a dangerous position. All he would need is another Gatatsu to trade this in and we lose our Aether Master. But I think this is a pretty strong play. It plays around Painter because he can't... Well, he could still get a Painter in, but it plays around Onyx Bear Seal, basically, or Bamboozle. He jams a Conjurer and has that cheap spell, Assassination Protocol, which is pretty strong synergy with Conjurer, to be honest. And he punches the Aether Master. Really good that just baited an attack, to be honest. But unfortunately he is playing in the Immolation, and we do have one. I forgot to say, at the end of the last turn, I replaced and I drew a Mage Sworn. I had the option to replace again. And I kept the second. Just in case I throw this down and he does Onyx Bear Seal, I have the second one. So I continue to sort of shut down these cheap spell synergies that an Arcanist Duelyst would tend to go for. So now let's see what I do here. Moving back. Oh yes, right. So right now I have this diagonal. He can't reach this with... where he could have last turn, but he chose not to. But now this time when I move it this way, and move this down, he won't be able to reach it with Painter at all. So that's a solid position. If I move it here... Yeah, because we'll be clearing. He does give us a nice Blood Tea Immolation play. I opt to move here and not use my Bloodborne spell, just to make sure, or make it more guaranteed that he won't be able to get anything in, because say I just move here, BBS instead, he just punches this, then he has a gap. But as I say, really solid Blood Tea Immo play. Chibi now in that thing at 5 health to get the 4. Clears. And now he's in a very tight spot at the moment. And I do punch, because we can close out this game fairly soon. Divine Bond is a really nice thing to see. Especially with this spell immune Ironcliff on board. And we see quite a smart play from him. He already had the move 1 space for an enemy minion. And he uses that to get into Lightbender, so he generates that gap for himself. He BBS's. And I think he draws the movement, doesn't he? Yeah. So he gets out of dodge here. Clears this. And he's good to go. This Ironcliff can't reach him. I can punch him for 2. We draw the Afterblaze. But none of our stuff can reach him. He's behind us, so we can't provoke him with a Conscript. I am thinking about Painter on this turn. I don't want to play into Painter too hard. Because my first instinct was get this as close as possible, move this up in front of me, punch, and play a painter in his face. But that plays into painter. So I do opt for more sort of, not quite diagonal, but I do try and, unless he can chain, because with this play, unless he moves here, change the 2-drop into painter, he won't be able to clear the Mage Sworn and the Iron Cliff. And even if you do, you generate the Padders, and I do have Afterblaze in hand. So I punch him for that last 2 damage. This is a +2/+4 buff. So even if that happens, we're still in a good spot. He replaces, and a Mage Sworn against Songhai is very solid, so he does concede. So that was our fade-in matchup against Songhai. Match number 2. Here's our second matchup against Vitruvian, reversing Xerix. In my opening hand, I have a Blood Tier, and I have 2 Blood Tiers, so I do plan on getting rid of one of those guys. And we have a Mage Sworn. Mage Sworn is not that great against Vitruvian, because it's Blood of Air is still a thing. Lost in the Desert, they're 5 and 4 costed spells. This is only 2 or less, so it's not that great in this matchup. We have the Aether Master as an opening play. We draw into another Aether Master. Obviously we're going to play this guy. We get rid of one, we draw into another Mage Sworn. We get rid of the Mage Sworn, we draw another Aether Master. But at the very least, because of that cycle, we do have a potential ramp to 4 and to drop a Duelyst, which will be pretty solid. Let's see what happens here. He drops a Metallurgist and a Dream Shaper. And this is why when I was talking about the deck, I was referencing this opener, because it happened in one of the games I was going to show. It's the question of, can I even afford board to just ramp to 4 and drop the Duelyst, you know? And in my opinion, I don't think I can. I think I value, there were a few options here, right? Obviously, one of the plays that you can make is just grab the tile, play the Duelyst. Another play that you can make is, I sort of figured out I could only clear one of these guys completely. And I opt to clear the Metallurgist. But there's merit to clearing both, right? Sort of. Because this is threatening the tile. But I guess you are denying that tile by taking that tile. Him placing this Dream Shaper here wasn't that smart. It would have been much more awkward for me if he had actually put this over here, I think. And threatened this tile that this wasn't near. But because he has put it here, I can just deny that tile and deny its sort of purpose. Blood Tier to punch this and clear with my face, and drop a Silverguard Knight, which we just drew into. And I don't replace, I don't think, unless I replace another Aether Master. Do not decide to replace, fair enough. Unless I do, because having the 2-drop Immolation is nice, but I do replace the Aether Master into another Silverguard. I should have done that first. You should always replace first. But I guess it's okay. This is a decent board position. I've denied that tile he was trying to take. If he had put it here, I guess it wouldn't have made too much of a difference. Because now I've dropped the Provoke. But doing it this way, now this can't hit my Silverguard, and he can't clean it up with the Falsiers. Let's see what he does here. So he trades with my Blood Tier, which is fantastic. Just with my 2 health and a Blood Tier, I cleared 2 of his minions. And he has a very weak Lost in the Desert play. Incredibly weak. So this turn... This turn I could have potentially played better. But I didn't want to exhaust my... or leave myself out of resources in terms of minions. I did buff this and I stacked, and I know next turn he's going to have Blood of Air. And he'll be able to clean it up 100%. But I've only used one minion and I'm recycling its value. Like, first turn, or that turn, it meant he couldn't move. He couldn't do anything other than Lost in the Desert. It's still denying the tile. It's still provoking him. So I'm more recycling its value and baiting a Blood of Air so that it doesn't get used on things like my Duelyst. Things like my Iron Cliff Guardian, for example. That's the kind of goal of this turn. Because it is a pretty obvious Blood of Air, but I'm still getting in a damage with this before he removes it. And I'm still denying this tile, so I think the turn could have definitely been played differently. But that's what I chose to do. So this is a pretty obvious Blood of Air, which I'm pretty sure he does do. Oh no, he Repulsor Beast. Yeah, because he's running Lost in the Desert. So it's kind of expected to see that, and sort of some lists run Recombobulus as well for a 6 mana push. So he's using Celebrant, trying to secure a tile. It's a bit of a slower play. It's not really what I was expecting. And he's trying to play this tile in safety. Luckily, we do have an airdrop minion. And the most ideal situation here is I replace into a Aegis Barrier, because I can deny the tile, put the 5 in the tile, get the 6, and play the Aegis. Unfortunately, I don't think it happens. Yeah, unfortunately not. So I do airdrop deny that tile. We're playing into Lost in the Desert again, but this doesn't die to Lost, and neither does this. Even if you lost Punch, that's 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. Iron Cliff is still up. He does Sensor Reader. It's just another solid removal. But we're coming up to 6 mana, and I do have a 2-drop Immolation play, which is fairly strong. He punches me with this, which I think was a mistake. It just allows me to remove it, so he doesn't secure this tile at all. I opt to drop the Aether Master instead of the Azure Herald to develop a more sort of useful minion on the board, and then immolate, and then start replacing again. Trying to optimize my hand, trying to find that Aegis Barrier for my Cliffy. And he gave us a fairly obvious play here, I think. I draw into another Herald, which I do get rid of. We draw into a Mage Sworn, which isn't too great in this matchup, as I've stated earlier. So this turn he goes Celebrant. Dream Shaper. Thunderhorn. Playing obviously into a second Immolation, which we do have in hand. I ditched the Mage Sworn. We have a potential claim, but because I can clean this up so well with an Immolation play, just by like moving 2 across, moving this up so it doesn't chain, punching, immolating. There was one potential change I saw with this turn that I could have done, that I perhaps should have. Because I am scared of Lost in the Desert. Still. And I BBS. And I BBS every time, I think. But the different thing I could have done with this turn is the placement of the Azure Herald. For me, there were 2 options. Play the Azure Herald here to protect my face, my Aether Master, from Lost in the Desert. Because right now he could go up, punch this, and if this herald isn't here, Lost in the Desert would clear board, right? My other option was, and I think overall it was a better one. Well, it wouldn't clear board. So, option number one, obviously, I play the herald here. Even if he punches this, this stays up, this stays up. I don't take 6. This dies. That's an interesting one. Or my other thing I was kind of considering, and I also wanted to sort of protect this tile potentially. Other option, I could have played it right here, couldn't have I? You come here, you punch this, it doesn't matter. So in retrospect, where I played it wasn't very good. I should have played it here or here. Playing it obviously here to protect against Lost, playing it here to protect 2 groups against Lost, and to deny this exhuming sand tile, and protect my most valued minion on board against Lost in the Desert. Because this is the thing that's going to deal the most damage and help me trade into his board. Where I played it wasn't very good, in retrospect. Should have been here on a Mana Spring, or here on the exhuming sand tile. This also plays in a Bone Swarm, potentially. We see a Sirocco come out. And we have the disadvantage of not blocking this tile. He gets an extra minion on board. I think I claim this turn. I think I try and claim. I move this first so it doesn't get taken out by the claim. This 3x3, I think was a pretty obvious decision. I think I make another misplay here. I don't have a very efficient way of clearing Sirocco because there aren't any Tempests. That's a situation where a Tempest or a Decimate could have been really solid. Not so much Decimate actually, because he still had minions near him, but Tempest would have been amazing. But I don't feel like I run into these Sirocco Golem lists often enough to justify Tempest. And there was always the potential that you used Sirocco and you what's the card? Inner Oasis. And then again, even against the Sirocco lists, Tempest does nothing. So that's why it isn't in the list. It's good against Hyperswarm, but then again so is Immolation. And Tempest doesn't clear a Blood Tide Priestess, whereas your things like your Martyrdoms would do that for you. So yeah. It's unfortunate that we had to use a claim in that way. It's kind of efficient. We didn't get a lot of development in. What I should have done with my Quest Fallen is just run it into face. I want to close out this game as fast as I can. We have used 2 Immolations, haven't we? I believe so. We are running 3. So at this point we have the Blood 2 in hand, we have an Immolation ready to go. If all else fails, right, we have a potential out of hand lethal. I don't think we draw into it. Yeah, this was our loss, so unfortunately we do lose this, despite our dominant position. And I think it's because of this card right here. Mao Healer. Mao Healer makes me want to run some kind of Dispel. But then again, it's like, what do you cut? What do you chuck in for some Lightbenders, for example? And First Wish. So he's stacking up. He's really valuing, like, I'm all in on this Mao Healer. If you answer it, I lose. If you don't, you know, I'm in a good spot. I'll place my Cliffy because I'm not drawing Aegis, and I know it's probably just going to get Blood Red. I do Martyrdom. And so I heal him for 11 health, which is pretty significant. I was wondering if there's another way I could have done this turn. To just heal him for 9. Just heal him for 9. I do want to have another look at this. Or just heal him to 9 by healing him 5 points of health. But it means I trade in a lot of my board. I go 3, 4, 5, 6 on the Herald. I trade in everything except for my Aether Master. And then I have a Blood Tear on board. You're at 9 health and I'm at, well, I've just taken 5, so I'm at 8 health. You now have the health advantage and I have no board. Whereas I martyrdom this, you obviously have the health advantage, but I still keep a lot of my board presence. Which I kind of liked a little bit more. I can block this, getting into damage. I've just healed him for a lot. He was at 5 health. I'm bringing him back down to 8. I'm still in a winning position here. My health is okay. I've got the healing tiles for my minions. I opted to use it on my minions rather than me because I do have the Herald in hand. I have 2 Zeers. And I play straight into Bone Swarm, which is super unfortunate. Which allows him to... So, it's just an unfortunate thing. My Zeals have Provoke only when they're right near me. Claim operates in a 3x3. I put my minions under tiles. It's just unfortunate that it did play in the Bone Swarm. I was super lucky that I did heal up. Or I probably would have been dead this turn. Or that past turn. So I have Zia, but I don't have a way of just killing me this turn. Which is unfortunate. Like just straight up running my general into something with 4 attack, killing me, and then guarantee that this becomes my general. I didn't have that. So I had to take a different play. Still evolving Zia. I think at this point, if they have the Blood of Air, they have it, and there's not much I can do. I think it's 0 bust at this point, considering their answers. I do opt to drop the 0 bite in his face. What was my other option? Because what I wanted to do was try and deny him punching me. And so if I put the Blood Tear here instead, and say just Blood Tiered this, he'd be able to come along with this, punch, dead. Well, he would come along with this, clear that, punch the Provoke, so then this could get in and punch me and hit me for 5, and that would be lethal, just on board. So I needed to put the Zia here instead to also guarantee that this would stop him from attacking me and denying the damage. The position of the Blood Tear. Where do I put this guy? And I just chucked that there. Okay. I think if I had actually put that there... Actually, I don't think it would have mattered. And it doesn't matter because he EMPs. Azir becomes... not useful. And yeah, we lose the EMP. EMP is quite rough on the deck because we're generating these big guys with these really powerful abilities. And EMP shuts it down pretty good. Obviously it's a very strong card. It has very strong stats. It has a massively strong ability. It's great for its mana cost. And it shuts down Azir play. It also counters out Mage Sworn. It deals with the Altuses potentially. Removes Aegis Barrier utility. It's pretty strong. I'm not running it in this deck because I feel like it'll be a little bit too detrimental. But there you go. Those are the 2 games. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the games. I hope you enjoyed the deck list. Both deck lists, both TM25s and my revised version, will be in the description, as well as TM25's channel. And I'll see you next video. Bye bye.